goat tees, and a whistle. I'm your host, Coach Huddy. Holy crap, I gotta get this out right. This is Coach Huddy, and I got a special guest with me again, Coach T, coming from Pendleton, Oregon, representing the Bucks on a shirt there. I see. Say hi to everybody there,
Go
T.
Bucks. Hi, everybody. How's it going?
All right. So I'm excited to have him back on here again. So this episode, we're going to kind of talk about assistant coaches and what it's like to be an assistant coach. T's been an assistant coach quite a bit. I've been an assistant coach, obviously, quite a bit. So we're going to kind of give our perspective on coaching and what it comes to what we experience and stuff like that, how an assistant coach can help their head coaches out, maybe ways that head coaches might help assistant coaches out. I think sometimes we kind of get head coaches after longer they head coach. Sometimes I think they forget what it was like to be an assistant coach. So basically what we're going to do is look at the highs and lows behind the coaching, what comes there, understand the importance of assistant coaches and how they are really do a lot more of the behind the scenes stuff than, kind of what they deal with. They obviously don't have the pressure as the head coach does, but there's still a lot of things that goes into being an assistant coach. All right, so we're gonna talk about some questions, some perspectives, your advice and stuff, and your perspective on this topic, and kind of gives your expertise on this. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, man. So here we go. So your current role right now is what? Let's talk about what your current role is right now as an assistant coach. And
So here in Pendleton, I'm the secondary coach. I coach safeties. Well, we have two of them. I coach the safeties and work on like coverage wise for the defense. Last year I was up in the box. This year they're bringing me back down to the field. And then I'm also the special teams coordinator for the Buckaroos there at the high school. And then also an assistant coach for the women's team at Blue Mountain for the basketball.
nice. Right on. Okay. So let's see here. Some experiences that you've had as an assistant coach. Let's kind of dive right into it. Let's look at some things that are more of a pet peeve to you as an assistant coach, that might have head coaches have forgotten that over time. So, for example, it's like, is it communication? Is it lack of thereof? Or is it micromanaging? What are some things that you've experienced in your past? Obviously we don't have to call out coaches and stuff like that, but there's some experience you've had in your past being an assistant coach that kind of wish went a little bit better for you, that could maybe bring awareness for head coaches.
Yeah, I think that being a head coach, first of all, let's say that's a tough gig because you have the whole town, you have the administration on your back, you have, the whole everybody's looking at you because you're the uh what do you call it? The face of the program, obviously. But sometimes I think head coaches forget that there's value in the guys that work underneath you because if you can't delegate properly, you're going to get overwhelmed and stuff's going to go haywire. But you have dudes that have been coaching for a long time, or just not even if they've been coaching for a long time, but hungry and want to, share their knowledge that they have, whether it be they played somewhere or, they've been to a lot of trainings or like clinics and stuff and picked up valuable information from other coaches. If coaches sometimes would just, number one, delegate more instead of trying to take everything on their shoulders because there's a reason they hired you because they know you could coach. And so, sometimes it gets frustrating. Well, not frustrating. I guess it's frustrating when coaches don't delegate and they're like, oh, we got to do all this stuff. But then when you're like, well, what can I do to help? They're like, oh, I got it. And then when the deadline comes or gets close, they're in panic mode when we could have had it done because we could have spread it out throughout the coaches. Um, you know, I think that'd be one of the ones that bothers me, a pet peeve that they don't delegate, because like I get it, it's their program, we work for them, but we're also invested in it. That's why we chose to work for them. And sometimes I think they forget that too, that we're invested in it too, and we have some knowledge that we want to share and to help the program grow and maybe do some different things, uh, but still get to the same goal where we have success in the program.
Yeah, and to go off that too, that's a thing too that I've noticed as being an assistant coach, and then I've had different head coaches I've had coaches that really do struggle, and they are very much the control type, and they want everything done a
Yes.
certain way, and
Yeah.
and they put so much pressure on them, and it's they won't necessarily not listen, but sometimes they don't listen to their assistant coaches as far as being able to say, "Hey, we got this," or when they do give an idea, it kind of gets blown over. It's like, well, I just gave a suggestion. You asked what it was, and then it was like nothing. It was like, okay, like I've had conversations, like before the season starts. Okay, what do we need to get better? What should we do with our program? And I remember bringing up something before, and it was just like, and then we move on. I was just like, okay, all right. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just giving you stuff that I know. And so, yeah, I think part of that, that's, I think it might fall over the micromanagement part of it, but also the autonomy of being assistant coaches that I think letting your assistant coaches do their thing and trusting them. I've had other coaches that were absolutely like, they would stay in their almost like stay in their lane a little bit. Like, hey, I hired you to be this position coach. I'm going to let you do your thing. Just make sure we communicate so we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Or when I was the DC, that was that the head coach at the time. They were the offensive coordinator. I'll run the offense, you run the defense, and we were able to stay in our lane, and we had a great repertoire, and we communicated things, and we did what we could to be the best. And so I think sometimes the head coaches do forget about that sometimes, and I think sometimes they, hey, you brought me here to do this for you, and let it go. Later, let us help you. So let us be that support.
Yeah. The also I had a coach back in the day. I was the DC. I mean, it was a crazy thing how it all went down, but I got promoted to DC in the Mountain Home, and we had a kid that missed some practices. And as the DC, I mean, he was probably one of our better athletes, but as the DC, I was like, I'm not playing him. And then for some reason in the game, the next game we played when he was there, after missing practices, the head coach was like, "You're gonna play him," and I was like, "No, I'm not." And he was like, "Yeah, you are. This is my program, and you're gonna play him." And I'm like, "So what message are we sending to kids that he can miss a whole week's worth of practice, and all these other guys that work their tails off can play?" And I was like, "Well, then you can call the defense because I'm not doing it." And he was just like, "What? You're gonna do it?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." And I just stood on the sideline. I just stood on the sideline and coached my DBs and was like, "Figure it out." And he was pissed, but I was like, I mean, you're sending the wrong message, man. And that's not what I'm about. And I don't want to be. I didn't want my name associated with that. And it was crazy. And he was just like, "No, you're gonna play him," and was telling me how I was gonna do stuff. And I was like, "Well, we've got guys that have been working all week that have been here and made the sacrifice and didn't miss because whatever the reason was the kid missed. I can't even remember, but he just wasn't there. And then show up on Friday and he's telling me I have to play him. And I get that he's one of our better players, but that's not fair to the guys that put in the work and were here all week and doing what they needed to do.
So was this a conversation you had behind closed doors? Or this out on the field, like during practice
Oh
or
yeah, this no, this is on the sideline. This is on the
on the
sideline at the
side?
game.
So yeah. So to me, that's another pet peeve is that. So this is a pet peeve of mine, and just in coaching in general. And I remember being helping out with one program, and I remember one of the first things, and
Uh-huh.
this guy was going to be the DC, and it
Uh-huh.
was a great coaching staff, a lot of respect for each other. But the one thing he said with that right before we even started the season was like, we take care of business behind closed doors. You know, make sure we are communicating what's going on. Make sure there's nothing going on the sideline. We don't have, as a coach, you don't want to seem unorganized and because the kids see that and they'll feed off that stuff on
Yeah.
the sideline. And then one of the things he says is don't motherfuck each other. And it was like if we're coaches talking crap about other coaches, that's toxic.
For
And
sure.
I've been part of programs and they whisper about other coaches during. I'm like, are you kidding me? Why are we talking about So I've seen that happen too, and I'm just like, I don't want it. And then I'm kind of like, I don't want to be part of this. It really is.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the number one turn off. You cannot take care of business and you cannot talk to this person about what's going on and you're going to undermine them. I don't want to be a part of this. So yeah, the undermining and stuff that happens in coaching, I think that's also an issue that sometimes I think not a power struggle. I don't know if it's egos because I think a lot of times you get in coaching, you get egos sometimes in there too. So yeah, egos. And I have this. I have this actually printed on my door, and I've had it since I was in Gooding. I have it in Hagerman. Ego kills talent. Ego will always destroy talent above everything else. If your ego is interferes with your success of your team, I've seen great teams just get destroyed because somebody's ego gets in the way.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And it's too like I've been in a couple places where like I don't know, I don't know what it was, but maybe like even in Mount Home, I was there for 15 years, common sense, people were wanting me to be the head coach. I was the interim head coach for a little bit. I was the heir apparent, played there. You would thought, and other people that the powers that be had different plans. And when I applied for it, because I applied for it twice, and neither time I got it. The first time they told me, "Oh, you don't have enough experience," and I was like, "Okay, I can understand that." Young dude. But after 15 years, I literally told him I have 15 years of experience of what not to do and we could be successful. And it's funny when a head coach's ego is so fragile, or I don't know how to explain it, where they think that their assistant is gunning for them or that they come there to take their job because that's not what my intention is anywhere I've been. My intention has been to promote the program and leave it better than when I got there. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And so,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
sometimes
Yeah,
people
and
are just,
yeah, I've seen that, and I've seen that happen before. It's like I've seen a lot of good assistant coaches that were really great for the program, and they
Mhm.
weren't there. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, why? What happened? And I never want to assume what the situation was, but I've been around and I've seen guys who were I thought was like, wow, this person is really good for the program, and they're not there anymore. And
Hmm.
and things come up, family stuff, or obviously there's other things on the side, but sometimes it seems like the ego gets in the way. And I think as a head coach, I think one of the things that can get missed sometimes, especially if you have a young coach coming up, somebody new
Hmm.
who's new to the game, somebody that maybe you might have coached as a player, and then you bring it up, is developing your assistant coaches along with you. And I've seen coaches that do really good at this. I think they'll bring somebody along, somebody new to the game, and then slowly work them in there and really try to give them something so it's their own thing. And Coach Gonzo, I thought does a really good job of this when I've coached with him. His mentality is that if I have to leave, something comes up, I get kicked out of the game, I can feel comfortable enough my assistants can take over and they can run the program. So
You
game
said get
time,
kicked
something
out of the
happens.
game.
Yeah, if I get kicked out of the game, I can. Well, he's never been kicked
No,
out,
no,
but
I
I
hear you.
mean,
No, no, I hear you. I hear you.
his yeah, but you know what I'm saying. He's like, if something comes up, I got a family emergency, something, I should never have to worry about
Sure.
what's going to go on with the game because I have so much. I have enough trust in my assistants; they're going to do the job. So if I ever have to step away, my assistant coaches can take over and they can do it. And I think that's what you know as a head coach, I think that sometimes that's what we gotta get to. I think head coaches got to get to is that they got to be able to trust their assistants that if they have to step away, something happens, kicked out of the game, whatever, that
Yeah.
the game's still going to be under control of the assistants, and because he has
Yeah.
enough trust in them. And so, in the developing those players or those coaches too, just like you develop your players, I think that's important. When I've coached, when we brought new people in, you know, trying to trust their decision and help them out and during the game time let them have their moment, let them talk to the players. Last year was a perfect example. We brought Andrew Carter onto the coaching staff to be our line coach, and being Nick, we're like, this is your wheelhouse, you got the line, we'll take care of everything else. And so implementing terminology, all that stuff, that was all Andrew. And we had a great offensive line, and our offensive line in middle school probably could have honestly competed in high school just with the terminology and how they read things. And having somebody like that on your staff, it helps a tremendous amount. So, yeah, I think developing your assistants
Yeah,
is just as important as your players.
for sure. And on that, hiring Andrew Carter, fantastic decision because that dude, player in itself, just a player, and just the knowledge base he has. He played so much college football, from Carroll to it was a Weber. Was
Weaver.
that where he
Yep.
wound up? Weber,
Yep.
yeah, to back down to Weber, and now still playing, man. So that's a
Yeah.
value. You can't get that. You know what I'm saying? That is a commodity that like that's a gold mine that you just tapped into, and you're just like take, 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 and
Yeah.
he probably
Oh, yeah.
eats it up because he loves it.
Oh, he loves it. Yeah. And those kids, and I was, I'm, anybody knows who knows Carter Andrew and Andrew's filter. Sometimes, I
Yes.
mean, but dude, when we had him with those kids, we seventh and eighth graders, they ate
Uh-huh.
him up and they loved him. And he ended up loving it too. Because I think he was, because I asked him, in this year, I don't know what's going to happen because he's in Green Bay right now, playing for the IFL team. And when he comes back, I'm going to tell him, that there's a job opening over in Gooding if he wants to get that instead, so you don't have to drive to Hagerman. But I don't know, but it's
Mhm.
definitely watching him from a distance. I'm like, yeah, this is something that you could go into later on if this is something you decide to do after his career. So yeah, I just think and I've had other guys that I've brought along, and I think the couple times when I've been head coach or I've been an assistant and is trying not to step over line and overstep my spot sometimes because sometimes I've seen head coaches do it. I've seen other more experienced head coaches kind of do that too, like not stay in their lane. And I don't think they do it intentionally. I think they get super excited into the game and they'll start saying stuff, especially when it came to, I remember one time in special teams, one of our assistant coaches, I was saying some stuff, and I remember Nick having to like reel me in, like, "Hey, dude, this is him. Let him do his thing." So I'm like, "Oh crap, yeah." I kind of have to back up, like I didn't
Right.
mean to do that.
Right.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's a tough thing too. That's another thing that, like you're saying, groom younger coaches and bring them in and let them have some autonomy and let them learn. Like when we were talking about the last time I was on about letting kids fail. Sometimes you got to let them test the waters on what works for them because they got to find their flow and their rhythm for coaching. Because not everybody's going to be a Coach Huddy, not everybody's going to be a Coach T, not everybody's going to be a Coach Carter. You know and so each of us have our own coaching style. But yeah, it's when we come together, it all melts together and it works. And that's the best thing. And like one of the coaches, one of my mentors that I man always wanted to coach for him, never got a chance. Like actually before I came to Gooding, I was going to go to Bishop Kelly in Boise. Coach Brennan already was like, "Hey, we got a job." When I left Mountain Home, he's like, "We got a job for you. We'd love to have you." Couldn't find a job over there, and he was the one that told me to come to Gooding, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll do it." But he ran his program. It was like a business. He was the head guy, and then he trusted his DC, his OC, and like if there was mistakes, he was on his coaches because you're the expert. You should be teaching them to what to do and let their coaches coach down. And like they'd have behind the doors meetings and stuff like that. And I mean, not that he'd say he wouldn't light somebody up on the sideline, but it just seemed like, and I mean, I think that's why they've had so much success because he has trust in his guys and he lets them coach and lets them do their thing. And he's got, so many good coaches that are on his staff that he's had while he was there before he left and multiple state championships in the 4A and just always had a successful program while he was there. I just think that'd be the way to do it. I would run it like a business. I'm the head guy, but you guys are in charge. And if I see something going on, I'm not going to go chew a player's butt unless it's something that they can control, attitude and effort. You know what I'm saying? But if it's something that the coach should be fixing, I would have a word with the coach, and we'd be like, "Hey, you better fix that because that's your job because that's what I hired you to do," instead of and it just seems like it works. And like I said, multiple state titles can't lie. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
no kidding. Yeah. All right, so let's switch
Multiple.
to Yeah, let's switch to the how assistants can support their head coach. So we kind of talked about some of the pet peeves and things that we think that you know head coaches will do and stuff like that, and how that can be fixed. Let's talk about what can assistants do. So we talked right at the beginning. We talked about the pressure that the head coach is in because they are the face of the program. They are they are the ones that get looked at in the community, parents, everything else. They're the ones that's going to shoulder that load. So how can assistants better anticipate what their head coach needs without being asked? What do you think are some things there that we can do to try to? What can we do to help take away some of that burden?
Like I said, volunteer to help them out. Like, we all know what it takes to run a football season. We've been around it. If it means like, you know, in Mountain Home, I volunteered to go every week and I'd line the game field just because it took some pressure off of him having to talk to the maintenance people or the maintenance people having to do it or them not doing it right or they didn't do this or do that. So now the onus falls on me and as part of the program, I just go paint the field, and I liked it. I'd go out there and just think about the game and walk the field and do the lines, and it seems like some little things like that, if we could be willing to pitch in, like, and then also I think be open to new things because like coming from different programs into programs, you think you know how things should go, and then just being open to like change and willing to adjust your coaching style or how you coach it because like here in Pendleton it's crazy, Huddy. It's like we do like 4-2-5 stuff, and so when I my verbiage when I talk to Bronco Solo, stuff that I learned from Kelly Jennings, and but here they don't call it a 4-2-5. They are like it's like a combination, what they call it. It's like a 4-3 or but it's basically
Okay,
4-2-5
it's
concepts.
basically a
You know what
4-2.
I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
but whatever. I don't care. I don't care
yeah,
if that's what you want to call it. Let's go. Let's go win
yeah.
football games, and it's been great. It's just and being able to accept that and be like, okay, and like when they ask me about what coverage we call that, I call this Bronco solo because we're doing this on this side and this on the back side, and they're
Right.
like, yeah,
Okay.
okay,
Yeah. To me, that's one of the biggest things about coaching, especially when you're going to is figuring out each other's terminology
yeah,
because and that to me that goes back to head coaches making sure your assistants understand terminology because I think sometimes they assume that you're going to know what Bronco is or you know what I called the mic, we're calling Raven or they're
yeah,
whatever their changes are. It's like okay, I didn't know what the hell what, and then
yeah,
coaching certain position, I'm like, what the hell's that? But that doesn't
yeah,
get communicated early enough. And I think if that's not communicated early enough, then that's where you can run into some issues. And your assistant's like,
hmm,
what do you want me to do? And so I think the terminology and stuff like that. So, and I think an assistant coach, that's something they can do. So ask questions, try to get all your questions taken care of. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Talk behind the scenes if you need to. If you got a concern or something, have to make sure it's behind closed doors so everything's fine. And if it's during
100%.
practice or something, and the player says, "Hey, what's this?" You don't know. Go talk to head coach and say, "Hey, we have a scenario here. How would you like us to approach it?" There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that. Go take care of it.
for sure. I mean, one thing I've learned, like just in working in the business that I'm in, and also in coaching, it's okay to not know. You don't. Your ego doesn't have to be that big that like every damn thing because that's not realistic. We don't know everything, right? So when a player comes and asks you, if you truly don't know, don't put your foot in your mouth and try to run your yapper and be like, oh, I know all this and this is what you should do. And then when the head coach hears that, like, that's totally not what we do. Be like, I'm not sure. Let me go talk to head coach or let me go talk to this person and I'll get back with you. And then we'll both understand it better. And if guys are able to do that, they'll be successful coaches. Because I mean, yes, we're the experts at it, but we don't know everything. And it may be just like you said, the verbiage, what we're calling people or how we're calling it's just a little different, but in the reality of the whole grand scheme, it's the same thing. But you just can't be out there faking the funk. It's okay to be not know, and be wrong sometimes. It's okay. it's not the end of the world. And so, but be humble enough to ask questions, like you said, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, all yeah, good points. I think uh, lighten that burden for the head coach as much as possible, and that comes down to the head coach being able to trust that you're going to do your thing. If you're asked
Yeah.
to do something, hey, today make sure you follow the practice schedule. Make sure you do what you're supposed to do. We know
Right.
how practice schedules go. Seems like offense.
Yes. Yeah. One more
Priority.
rep. One more
One more
rep.
rep. One more rep.
Line it
It's
up.
like,
One more rep.
yeah, one more rep. One thing, the difference between high school and college, I noticed on the scheduling, it was straight up. Nope. It was exactly what it was broken down even more. I remember when I was that spring, when I helped spring ball over at Eastern, I remember Coach Camp and stuff like that. And we had a schedule and it was broken down to like multiple periods. Like, we're in period 1, 5, 6, whatever we're at, and if it was on the schedule that day, it was okay, we're doing 3rd and 6 situations or 3rd and long situations. So we do a
Hmm.
3rd and long, they set the marker up and they had their plays. Like, here are the 10 plays that we are doing. And it was for the offense, here are the 10 plays. It was scripted. Defense, it was scripted. They had their 10 plays and they went from there. And it was not, if you screwed up on that play, doesn't matter. We're moving on. It's not one more play.
Yeah.
There was never any of that stuff. So it was pretty much, nope, this is how we go. And, it's, college obviously is different than high school. You,
Right.
you approach it differently. So one last question in this part, and then we're going to go into a little bit of rapid fire for a few questions, and then we'll go from there. So how important is loyalty, and how do you balance speaking up with staying in your lane as an assistant?
I
Tough
think
question.
loyalty is, yeah, that's tough. I think it's really important because you can't have success of a program. And I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier. Like if you have an assistant that's talking shit about a head coach, everybody has to be on the same line, and they have to be loyal to you too. They can't be undermining you and bad mouthing you too, you know, behind closed doors or to the people that they don't think will ever get back to you or whatever. And I think it's very important that loyalty is a huge thing for me. If you can show it and, I'll reciprocate, but then also it's hard for me to return it when it gets broken. It's a long road for for me to trust someone because if I'm willing to put myself out there and my name and, my time to work for you as a coach, assistant or whatever, you know, I I would expect you to have enough respect for me to, if there was, like you said, like there was an issue, we're men, first of all, let's have a conversation. Let's not take it to the back rooms or behind the back. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it's just like it's if you break a trust with a player, it's hard to get that back. Same goes with coaching.
Yeah.
If that
100%.
trust is broken because of the that type of nonsense of the you know undermining coaches and doing this all stuff or just making them not feel valued, then no, sorry, you know that's the rough part. And so, yeah, I totally agree that loyalty is important, and you need to have your coaches back. Just because, even if you don't agree with the call, what happened on the field, yeah, I am not going to tell anybody that they were wrong. If it's behind closed doors and we want to have a conversation, saying, "Dude, we had this set up for this. Why did we not do this?" And you're behind closed doors and you're talking to that person, fine, have that conversation. But you know,
Mhm.
certain thing happens, and then after the game, you lost the game, the playoff game, and you're going, yeah, well, if he would have done this, no, that's you're not helping yourself, you're not helping the organization, because then that's where the undermining happens. That's where the breakdown happens. That's where then you get parents talking, and you get the community talking, and you get riffs, and the next thing you know, somebody's not on the program, it's not on the team anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So pet peeves, pressure, and perspective. So kind of a rapid fire. We're just get a few pet peeves. We kind of talked about it a little bit. I'll name the behavior. You tell me if it's a pet peeve or a head or an assistant coach. They just tell me if it's head or assistant coach. All right, here we go. Throwing assistants under the bus after a loss. Is
Pet
that
peeve.
a pet peeve? Yeah. Head
Pet peeve.
coach, yep. Not giving input until after the decision has already been made.
Pet peeve. Pet
Yeah.
peeve. Yeah. Pet
Acting
peeve.
like you're the head coach when you're not. Yeah. Only talking to assistants when something has gone wrong.
Ooh, what were my choices again?
Is that a pet peeve for the head coach or assistant? Talking, obviously head coach, but yeah, or yeah, only talking to your assistants when the things are going wrong. Yeah, it's a pet peeve too, right?
Pet peeve for sure as an assistant. All
Out
mine are
of
pet peeves.
Okay, so I'm gonna list those four again, and I want you to tell me which one you feel the most you've experienced in coaching out of these four. So first one I
Okay.
said was throwing assistants under the bus after a loss. Second one, not giving input until after the decision's already been made. Number three, acting like you're the head coach when you're not, or only talking to your assistants when things go wrong. Which one of those four you think you've already experienced the most?
Which one have I experienced the most? Probably not talking to the assistants until it's already hit the fan and stuck to the wall.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And then instead of like being proactive, we're reactive now. Now we're in scramble mode, trying to figure out how we're going to rectify it when we could have had a conversation before and we could have got ahead of it, whatever that situation may have been, and work towards fixing it. So it may not even have become a problem because we worked it out beforehand. I would say that one.
What would be your advice to new assistant coaches that are starting out? What would be a piece of advice you'd give people who are new, going to be a new in the new coaching assistant? They're going to go be assistant in, football, basketball, whatever it might be. What would be your advice?
My advice to any young coach out there or anyone that's starting or wanting to be a coach would be a sponge. Be a sponge. Get around the older guys, get around the guys that have been in the program the longest, and just ask them questions like we talked about earlier, and absorb as much information as you can from those guys. And then I'm not saying I went to a coach's clinic at Boise State, and Coach Choate was there, the one that was at Boise State. Now I think he's at Montana State or Montana,
Yeah.
the head coach.
Yeah. Is it Jeff? No. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jeff. No, because
Yeah.
John's at College of Idaho. Jeff is, yeah.
Jeff.
Anyway,
Okay.
he came out and he gave one of the best. He opened up with one of the best things I've ever heard. He said, "Hey, fellas, we're all here to learn a little bit, and I just want you to know the way I learned how to coach and become a special teams coach and do this and do that was I treat it like a pirate. I take a little bit from everywhere and then I put it into how I coach. And if it helps me, good. And if not, I throw it away. But every time I go and talk to someone or meet someone, and I talk football, if they have something that's going to help me as a coach to better my kids and my players and my team, I'm going to steal that and I'm going to add it to my repertoire so that way we can all be successful. So I think that's awesome. I think that's how I would tell them. Just be a sponge, take in as much as you can, ask all the questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question because you're a new coach. You just started. Everything's brand new to you. So you might as well ask the question. So that would be my advice.
Yeah. I mean,
Ask lots of questions
yeah.
and be a
And
sponge.
sometimes your coaches have been around the game for 20, 30 years. And then
Mhm.
there's so much knowledge there. Yeah, definitely be a sponge. My things don't go in there, just because, especially when you get coaches that come in that might have been former players,
Mhm.
or, they came from a bigger school going to a small school, check your
Mhm.
ego and your pride at the door. Okay, come in and learn about the system and, and, uh, and don't be afraid to share what you know, but make sure that you're also listening to what's going on
Okay,
and
honey, I
stuff
gotta
like that.
I gotta ask you a question.
Go ahead.
That scenario was this guy. Was I personable? I mean, did I come in did I come in like a dumbass or did I come in handling my business? You know what I'm saying? Did I come in like proper? Like I didn't come in like, oh yeah, I did this and I did that. So which is how we should do it? Like, what you just said, how would you how would you gauge how I came in when we coached together in getting?
How would I rate you?
Yeah.
Man, the hype train on you was so big. It's funny because one of my first experience coaching, I think you were still at Mountain Home and you weren't
Mhm.
quite here yet. I think you were coaching his basketball, a JV game, or you were coaching JV
Yeah.
or freshman. or something at Mount Home.
Yeah.
And I remember I was coaching with Z. I was one of the assistant coaches. I think I was coaching I can't remember if it was the freshman team or the JV team. I can't remember which one I was doing, but I remember that's like one of the first time they really introduced you, and you kind of were already kind of known over in Gooding, and you were still at Mountain
Hmm.
Home. And so, I heard a lot of good things, and watching you and stuff, and how you were around your players and stuff like that, and how you presented yourself. It was like, wow, okay, this is somebody that would be good to be around. And no, I never saw an ego or you coming in being, and honestly, I didn't know much about you. You never came and say, yeah, well, I went to Boise State, and
Yeah.
I was this and
Yeah.
that, and I was like, I heard the dude who loved the game of coaching. So yeah, that's how that was me seeing you, and I was just like, cool, all right, this is a good guy to be with. So yeah, so I'm obviously talking to you. So I respect you. I respect you and what you bring and how you help kids and what you're out there to do. You're there out there for the right reasons. We're not out there to show wins. It's not about the winning, right? You're there to develop young people. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
so that's that's how I see you.
Thanks, Huddy. I was just curious.
Yeah.
I always what I never
No,
asked anybody, you
no,
know?
I don't know what people think about me when I've been around. I want the kids to learn something. I want them to love the game like I love it. And I had a
Yeah.
conversation with my daughter last week, and that's her thing is that she loves softball. She wants kids to love softball. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought you did a
Let's
good
see
job,
here.
Huddy, and like the knowledge of the game was good, and I thought you did a great dude too. Like it was awesome. It was awesome to get to meet guys like you over there and getting for sure.
Yeah, and there's been some great people. I've coached around over here, and it's been a good experience. And they're more positive than ever will be negative, and I
Hmm.
experienced some things that weren't great, and it happens. It's the mental toll of coaching that happens that really can affect things. So let's see here. One piece of advice for a head coach going to keep and grow great assistants. What would be advice for head coaches to help keep and grow assistants? If you're a head coach, what would be your advice to a head coach to keep their assistants so they don't? And I guess we kind of talked about it a little bit, but to me, the trust thing
I
would
would
be the number one for me.
I would say trust, and then also I'd be like, I don't know, man. Like I wouldn't be selfish about it. Like as if you get a dude that's good, I would want to like give him as much as they can handle. Like, experience wise. And then, like, I would encourage a guy if he really feels like he's ready to make that move, go, man. Like, we're going to miss you in our program, but hopefully the little time we spent together, I rubbed off on you and you can go and take it and make it your own and go do whatever it is you want to do at a different place if that's what you choose to do. And I think just giving them enough, all the tools they need, and mentoring them so that when they do make that decision to become a head coach, it's a smooth transition, and they've got a game plan, so they're not just like, oh man, I'm a head coach now. What do I do? And they're ready to take on the challenge of all the and understand what it really means to be a head coach and no longer the assistant and to be the man.
May it be great bosses, great coaches want their assistants to find success and be better
For
than them.
sure.
And that's what I've always wanted. Anybody who becomes, I want them to become great. I want them to find the joy, and I would love to see them become a head coach. And if they don't ever want to become a head coach and they're fine assistant, dude, that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. But I want to, I want to see them succeed. I want them to grow and become great. So yeah, that would be my advice too. Is hey, I want my assistants. You're not. I want them to get to the point where if they leave me, they'll leave me because they're going to go become head coach and be successful, not because they're leaving me
Exactly.
because there was a breakdown in trust or whatever it might be. So yeah,
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because I mean, like you look at some of the great coaching trees out there, like let's just say at Boise State, because whatever, because it's Boise State. Like Coach Peterson's tree, how many coaches that he had down the line from him that coached for him or with him that went off and did great things and are still doing great things or played for him and then coached with him for a little while. Like there's so many coaches out there that so.
Yeah.
and to be part of a
Yeah.
tree like that, or like Saban for
Yeah.
one, shit, all of his
Saban.
assistants just
Let's see. Man, going back to see Lavelle at BYU because
oh yeah,
was like the grandfather of the West Coast, and
yeah,
Holmgren and some of these guys, and then you got Andy Reid that came off that tree, and you think about these coaching trees that have happened throughout the years and where their origins came from, and these coaches that they worked under, all these new young coaches in the NFL, they got their started with people like Andy Reid and stuff like
yeah,
that. So and then Andy Reid got it from Holmgren or from
yeah,
whoever he was with. So yeah.
yeah.
So all right. So we're gonna wrap up this segment of this. I think we got a lot of good stuff out there for assistant coaches. Assistant coaches that want to be assistant coaches, you are not going to get the headline. Your name's not going to be in the paper, but are definitely part of that championship if you get there. So I think that's just understand your role. I think understanding your role, and hopefully head coaches have a more appreciation for what they got. They'll appreciate what they have. Okay, we're gonna do one more segment. We're gonna do unusual mascots. So you're gonna be a part of that. We're not gonna do the
Yeah.
no mashup, no movie mashup today, but we are gonna do our mascot.
Okay.
So we're gonna take you to Harrison, Arkansas. Harrison, Arkansas. So a little bit about the town, about a population of about over 13 and a half, 13,000 is their population. They've seen a little bit of growth over the past few years. Let's see here. Looking at marital status of the town, 42% people are married, about 12% widow, 18% divorced, 24% never been married. Married families, median and medium. Let's see here. Not very much money coming out of this town. Let's see. Average income in Harrison is around 59,000. Poverty rate though is at 16 and a half. So that seems a little high. Median age is around 41 years old. All right, now let's talk about the school. Harrison High School, public high school. Before 1926, they were known as the Yellow Jackets because of their yellow gold color. Then they changed it in 1926 because of alumnus in 1928 graduate. The school newspaper changed it to the Goblins. So they are known now since 1926 as the Harrison Golden Goblins.
The Golden Goblin.
So the Golden Goblins. Yeah, the Golden Goblins. So that's it wasn't nothing too exciting. Um the initial Goblin was a friendly looking character, and then in 1968 the football team adopted a more aggressive, mean looking face with red face, ragged hair. Yeah, Harrison Goblins. So let's see here. Extracurricular activity looks like they've done pretty decent in some of their sports and getting championships. Cross country set a state record for 8 consecutive titles from 93 to 2000 girls cross country. Basketball girls basketball team captured 3 consecutive state titles from 2000, 2001, 2002. Their baseball team won their first state championship in 2008. Soccer, 2012 season, boys soccer, the state's only boys team. Uh, and let's see here. Football, Harrison has won state championship for football in 1999, and where they had an Arkansas Razorback All-American named Brandon Burlsworth that actually got drafted by
Burlsworth, the one.
Brandon Burlsworth. He ended up playing, he got drafted in like pick 60 something, 63, 99 draft. And then he
Got in
got
a
killed
car
in a car
accident.
accident. Yeah. Oh, so you remember that? Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was a
Yeah.
walk-on at Arkansas and worked his ass off and finally made it. Wore glasses, and I think they have a statue of him, don't they, or
They
something like
might.
that?
Yeah. Yeah. He was tragically killed in an automobile accident in April of 99, right after the, I mean, geez, that's crazy. So
Yeah,
yeah.
he
Yeah.
got. I want to
So
say he got picked up.
that's where he went to high school.
That's
So
crazy.
a little
That's
bit of
awesome.
Easter.
Good
It's
for
good.
them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. So
Hey, fun
that's it
fact.
for, yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so Mountain Home back in the day, because when they first put the town there, I guess there was a lot of rabbits there, jackrabbits or whatever they were. and they used to go out and like club rabbits because there were so many of them. And so Mountain Home, who is the Tigers now, I believe, and I can't remember what year it was, but they used to be their mascot used to be the Jackrabbits or the Bunnies or something like that. And dude, I am so glad when I got there it was the Tigers because I don't know how I'd feel about being a bunny.
Who's so the Jackrabbits? Was it North Dakota State? Were they Jackrabbits? No, there was one college, and they were the Jackrabbits. I can't
There
remember.
is, yeah, there is.
But yeah, there's school. One of the episodes we did, it was the bunnies. There was an episode, I can't
Hmm.
remember the name of the town, but their mascot was the bunnies. It was somewhere in the
Hmm.
Midwest. But yeah, and it was because they had a bunch of bunnies out in their field by their football field or something like that. So their mascot was the bunnies, and they've kept it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting when I do these mascots that you have, because I've always thought with mascots, it's either a proud warrior type, you know,
Hmm.
something that represents, or menacing or something like that. So like the Golden Goblins, I can see that being a menacing, or the Blue Devils or the Red Devils or, you know, uh,
Yeah.
you know, tigers, panthers, lions, yeah, they're common and stuff like that. And yeah, we might not have that animal around this area, but it's menacing. It's intimidating. Cheesemakers, it's kind of
Yeah.
hey, nothing against Tillamook, but I mean, and they own that too, But it's and I
Yeah.
think that's in its own thing is unique because it's part of their thing. But some of these other ones that we've done. So we did Yuma, which is the criminals. So Yuma,
The
their mascot's the
criminals?
criminals. Yeah, it's the criminals, and they actually have the black and white stripes. That's like the I want to say the warm ups for the wrestling team. That's what they have, the black and white stripes, because it's based off of a prison that was there in Arizona back in the before they were a state. And then
That's awesome.
we've done the Maniacs up in Idaho, the Maniacs, and that's named
Yeah.
after the psych hospital there. So
Mhm.
those are very unique, and I know the Maniacs. Gonzo has some friends that live up there, or and there's people all across the country that want to get Maniac gear, high school gear, have the Maniacs just because it's
For
such a
sure.
unique. So yeah, the Golden Goblins of Harrison. That's where we're in today. So once again, I want to thank
Harrison,
Coach T,
Arkansas.
Harrison, Arkansas. Yep,
So shout
yep.
out Harrison, Arkansas. If you see this out there and it gets to you, send this guy a decal or some or a shirt with
Oh,
with
that'd be
your
cool.
mascot on because I would be doing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'm up for someone give me free merch. Hey,
Oh, for sure.
yeah. So we've our listening audience has actually hit 3 continents. So we got North America, obviously United States, but we've had a couple listeners in the UK and we've had one in India. So yeah, it's kind of gotten out there. So I'd be love. I was talking to Kelly about this. I was telling her about it, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be crazy to get something like Antarctica or something. Oh, that'd be great to get all the continents." So yeah, I need somebody from Australia for sure, somebody from South America, and
Mhm.
that's yeah, I'll hit all the continents. So, anyways, again, I want to thanks Coach T. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you, man. Like always, man. Much love. Uh, these are fun, man. Let's continue to do them. I think if you want to hit Australia, we should talk about the impact of rugby tackling and tackling in football. You'll reach Australia, and those guys will be like,
Yeah,
"Hey,
well,
good day,
we will
man."
definitely do
They'll
that.
come fired.
Yeah, yeah,
That'd be
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. We'll definitely talk about that. We can do that. All right. Well,
That'd be
everybody, take
fun.
care of yourself. Goodbye.
All right, take care.